Welcome back. The National Bureau of Statistics has unveiled plans by the federal government to incorporate proceeds from illicit activities, including drug trafficking, prostitution, among others, into the calculation of the country's gross domestic product. According to the head of national accounts at the NBS, Madu, the move aligns with international best practices in economic reporting, while noting that illegal trade significantly contributes to some economies around the world. He acknowledged the difficulty of accurately estimating the proceeds from such activities, which he says typically represents about 3 to 3.5% of the GDP. And joining me to discuss this further is Olusesan Okunade, a chartered accountant. He joins me from Lagos. I believe you're joining us tonight from Lagos. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and glad to be here this evening.
So, off the curve, people are already questioning prostitution plus illegal drug trafficking being added to the GDP. How is that going to work?
Quite simple. When I read the headline from NBS, I was caught a bit, and the question that comes to bear is why do we most of the time like to copy things? Because I listened critically to the head of accounts for NBS saying it's a global best practice, but we ask ourselves, do we know what we call the culture that is being practiced in our environment? Some of the things that are actually being part of what is to be used in calculating our GDP are things that you ask yourself, people really boast of being identified doing some of these things? Even if we are in the drive for revenue, can we just look at ways at which we infuse our culture into some of the things that are obtainable? I want to draw you back to an aspect where we have this issue of gay and lesbianism being practiced in the developed world. I'm sure you know that it was actually discredited because of our particular culture in Africa, and a lot of people do not buy into it. So, coming to say that calculating the sales of illicit drugs, prostitution, to chunk into our GDP speaks to the fact that you are encouraging immorality. And I don't know how that will speak to. Maybe with this, we might go ahead to scrap NDLEA, because what NDLEA does is to actually run after some of the people that actually perpetrate this ill in town. So how can we be having conflicting agency? One is to make sure that this does not exist, and the other is encouraging that we can generate revenue into this. So it's quite confusing, but I believe that every one of us know that it's against our moral as African, and particular as Nigeria. It is not something that anybody will be proud to be identified with, that this is your business or your line of business as you move.
Do you think there's a silver lining here? Because for them to have come up, for the NBS to have come up with this idea, they probably have data to back it up.
Well, we want them to come out with the data, but I want to ask the people that we see carry out some of these acts, do you think that they are proud the way you are proud to be a journalist, the way I am proud to be an accountant, and come out boldly? Possibly a lady will come up and say, Daddy, the man I want to settle down with, the job that he's doing is that he's trafficking illicit drugs. And you'll be, proud for him that you have actually got the right man. Or a man will come and take the wife to say, Mom, on my way home, I actually picked this prostitute, and that is the person I really want. So how do you want to use that to be a yardstick? The thing they are riding on is quite simple, that it's a global best practice. But we keep saying, as we go ahead to have what we call global best practice, there are culture that is actually identifiable with continent, and Africa is not excluded. I'm sure you know if you go to Asia, the way we romance corruption here, it's a capital punishment that comes with it, and they don't shift their ground when they observe that. So I think on this is something that I feel may not see the light of the day. Otherwise, what will be encouraging is immorality in our environment, and that is inimical to the growth of our country as a nation.
So what is the way forward here? Because clearly the NBS wants to try and rebase the economy, wants to try and figure out how big the Nigerian economy truly is. Illegal or not, they're saying they want to be able to gather all of the data and decide it is this big or that big. Should they just completely leave it out? Because apparently it's a double-edged sword. While you're trying to figure out how big the economy is, what you're also saying is it's okay to peddle drugs and, prostitute.
Yeah, well, I would say that it is not something that we should consider if we know the deep implication of what we are actually meddling into. Even discussing this thing, you are giving some people the leverage because, like I said at the intro, NDLEA are always out there to clamp people. So are you going to say NDLEA will clamp on some of those people that are perpetrating the act, ask them to carry on their business, get the revenue, and now make it to be part of the contribution to the growth of the GDP? Definitely the answer is no, because we know the adverse effect of some of the things on our environment, the adverse effect of some of these things, even on the growth of our economy. So I feel there is something that will be difficult to penetrate in, and I'm sure the legislators are there, which is the National Assembly, which they will definitely give their nod as against not having this to fly. Even if it's considered to be global best practice, I think our culture, our attitude as Africans should play a major role in arriving at the conclusion of this.
Olusesan, just before you go, I just want to let you know that prostitution is legal in Australia, Colombia, Germany, Bangladesh, Denmark, Switzerland, Canada, France, Belgium, to mention a few. I don't want anyone coming for me. Just putting it out there. But thank you so much, Olusesan Okunade, Chartered Accountant, for joining us on the news tonight. All right, thank you.